morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. This is REGANELITE here for another episode of the Snowflake Viewpoint, where we cover some of the latest news that's happening in the UK. This is episode 68. The date and time is the 19th of August, 2024 at 8 PM UK time. I haven't had a chance to check, but I'm going to assume we're not live streaming on Twitch because every single time doesn't seem to be working, and I don't expect it to work here. So we are just on YouTube here tonight. How are we all doing? I hope you guys had a good weekend. Who have we got here? And Jow is here. Good to see you, Jow. Hope you're doing well. Stephen Banker is here as well. Good to see you both. Hope you're doing well. And to anyone else lurking in the chat, hope you guys are doing well. Right, got 6 stories to cover, guys. About halfway, I'll give you guys an update on what the plan is for this week as well. I did give some of it away on the morning post for you guys, but I'll give a bit more as we go along. Let's dive straight into the first story, guys. There's been there's been quite a lot of talk around Israel relationship with the UK lately. But before I go to the UK one, this one from Scotland is troubling. So this one is from The Guardian. The SNP minister apologises over a secret meeting with Israeli diplomats after an outcry. So Angus Robinson said he should have only met Israeli Deputy UK Ambassador in order to discuss Gaza ceasefire. Now, it's pretty clear that we know where the SNP's position is very, very strong on Gaza, and it's a it's extremely sensitive issue, as I'm sure everybody is well aware here. But the SNP's position is much, I would say, much stronger than Labour, that is for sure, and the Conservatives on this. They've been very clear that they want that they've been asking for a ceasefire from the start. Pretty much same as the Greens, when it comes to this situation, and to the ceasing of arms coming there as well. And the fact that the minister has had a secret meeting really does raises some questions about him and his integrity, and why is he gone behind? Why has he gone behind them? This is the thing that I don't understand. Why he's gone behind the SNP and why he didn't get approval. And it's a lot. That's the thing I just don't really understand here. So, a senior Scottish minister has said that his government will refuse to meet with Israeli officials until there is peace in Gaza after furious criticisms of a meeting earlier this month. So Angus Robinson, Scotland's External Affairs Secretary, apologised on Monday after senior figures in the Scottish National Party reacted angrily to his decision to hold a secret meeting with Daniela Grosgen Eriksson, Israel's Deputy Ambassador to the UK. Critics called for Robinson to be suspended and demanded an urgent debate at next month's SNP conference, accusing him of trying to normalise relations with Israel. Good evening, Andrew Luke. Hope you're doing well. One veteran Hollywood backbencher, Christine Graham, reportedly protested to John Sweeney, the First Minister, saying that her constituents were shocked the meeting had happened, to describe Robinson as a liability. Yeah, because if the SMC's position is not to speak to Israel in any way, shape, or form because of obviously what's going on, and he's gone behind their back to talk to them, well, surely he should be given the boot then, surely. The crisis intensified on Monday after another SNP minister, Ian McVeigh, told the BBC that Robinson should reflect on what he said to the diplomat and agree that the government should clarify its stance on the Gaza crisis and Israel's conduct. Speaking after a cabinet meeting on Monday, Robinson said he agreed to the meeting because it was a chance to express his government's clear and unwavering calls for a ceasefire. In a shortening statement issued 4 days after the meeting took place, his official said it included discussions about raising anti-Semitism, renewable energy cooperation, and culture. Yeah, but that's not what the SNP's position was. The position was you were not supposed to have meetings with them unless you had approval from the SNP, from your fellow SNP government. From the Scottish government. Unless you had approval, you should not have been speaking to them. It was a chance to express his government's clear and unwavering calls for a ceasefire. Well, they already know where the Scottish National Party's position. They know where the Scottish government position stands on the ceasefire. So I don't see the need for this. What why is the benefit of him doing this? What is the benefit of him doing this? All he has done is undermine Scottish government. He's undermined them, and I think he does need to go. Number 3, good to see you, buddy. Hope you're doing well. And he said the meeting was held in secret as Israel's request. So Israel requested the meeting to be held in secret as well. So even Robertson said on Monday that in hindsight he should have restricted the meeting solely to discussions about Gaza. Robinson said that no one intended that this meeting to be presented as legitimising the actions of the Israeli government in Gaza. The Scottish government has been consistent with our unequivocal condemnation of the atrocities that we have witnessed in Gaza. Yes, but you should not have agreed to it, especially in secret as well. That's not right. The reality, however, is that this meeting has been taken by many to represent a normalisation of relations between the Israelis and Scottish government. As such, it is clear it would have been better to ensure that the meeting was strictly limited to the need for an immediate ceasefire in Gaza and an end to the appalling loss of life in the region. I apologise for that fact that this did not happen. Going forward, it is clear having now spoken to the Israeli government and making them aware of our position on an immediate ceasefire, it would not be appropriate to accept any invitation to a further meeting. You should not have accepted an invitation in the first place without the Scottish government's approval. Doing it all in secret does not say it's just not right at all. Critics suggest Robertson's decision to hold a meeting appeared to mark a significant change in approach to the Scottish government. So in his predecessor, Hamza Yusuf is marred to a half-Palestinian SNP councillor, Nidia al-Naka, whose parents and siblings were trapped in Gaza by Israeli airstrikes. Yusuf took a very robust and critical line on Israel's conduct. He said it was unclear how vigorous Robertson had been in his meeting, and said Sweeney should consider reinstating the government's full position on the Gaza crisis. Yeah, he should. McLean told BBC Scotland, I think there is absolutely no harm in us providing more clarity on what was discussed in that meeting, but also restating our position again. As the First Minister has done on ceasefire, on humanitarian aid, or the reconciliation of the state of Palestine, and on those other issues that I've mentioned about genocide and the detention and torture of Palestinians, about the arrest warrants, about the illegal settlements, and about Israel's behaviour on Gaza. The Israeli embassy had been approached for comment. This does not sit right with me at all, guys. There's a part of me that kind of understands the Scotland's trying to be changing their position a little bit. That now that Hamza Yusuf is not there. Not so much as in, I want to be clear about this. Not so much in terms of their position of obviously wanting to call an end to arms sales to Israel, calling for an unconditional permanent ceasefire in Gaza. We know that's the position of them, is clear. But I think, this having no dialogue we've got with Israel, I don't know if that was the best idea from Hamza Yusuf at all. But I think they should be a bit more open to having They should be more open, the Scottish government, to having that dialogue, even if they vehemently disagree with what Israel are doing, and rightfully so. That's kind of where my position is. I mean, no way, shape, or form do I think it's right that Robinson did that meeting in secret, in such a secretive way. I think another question I'd like to know is did John Sweeney know about this? I think that's another question that needs to be asked. Did he know that this meeting was happening? Because it comes across very secretive. It doesn't feel right in any way, shape, or form. The word secretive bounced about too loosely, says Stephen Banker. Yeah, it just doesn't seem right. It seemed right to me. Is Scotland having a meeting with Israel? Like, that doesn't bother me. What bothers me is that how much of this was known by the party, known by the government. That's the question that I have, and I don't think there is a clear answer there. That's the frustration I have with this meeting, having this meeting in the first place. Well, continuing on with Israel and Gaza as such as well. So lawyers are seeking an arms export ban submits claims of Israel war crime to the UK court. So cases brought by the NGOs attempted to prevent the UK's government continuing to grant arms export licenses. So it looks like that they're going to try and ramp up the. They're going to try and start the arms exports again. From what it looks like, I mean, the UK government may be looking to attempt to do, which is absolutely infuriating if that is the case. Good morning, Stephen Moran, and good evening, Jeannie Bolt. I hope you both are doing well. And number 3, if I didn't say hello to you. I hope you're doing well. And so the last time there was obviously I had been a while since obviously I've talked about this. So there was an article, a story a couple of weeks ago that I covered with you guys about that they temporarily paused any kinds of exports whatsoever towards Israel or anything linked towards Israel in terms of arms and whatnot. I don't know if that's still been paused. Like I haven't seen anything that's told me that they've unpaused it and they've sent weapons or supplies. So I'm seeing all this again. Makes me wonder that maybe they have turned the taps back on, or maybe they're still waiting for a review to come in or something. I don't know 100% sure. If since the last time we talked about whether they've actually still stopped sending actually anything to Israel. As far as I'm aware, I don't know the answer to that because I haven't seen anything that says explicitly. Because the last time we talked about it, they said there was like a temporary pause of them sending them because of a review or something that they had to look at. But this obviously claims by lawyers. I'm not sure how much of this is going to work, but we'll have to wait and see, obviously. So claims of Palestinians being tortured, left untreated in hospitals and unable to escape consistent bombardment have been submitted to the High Court in London by lawyers seeking to order preventing the UK government from continuing to gain arms export licenses to British companies selling arms to Israel. The 14-witness statement covering more than 100 pages comes from Palestinians and Western medical doctors working in Gaza's hospital, as well as from ambulance drivers, civil defence department workers and aid workers. The graphic evidence is designed to support a request for a court order that the UK government has acted irrationally in refusing to ban the sale of arms, arguing there was not a clear risk the weapons would be used to commit breaches of international humanitarian law. This is the statutory test set for the government to decide whether to grant arms export licenses. The Labour government is reviewing the policy. The signed testimony has been given by witnesses all identified to the court, but only 2 of them are being named by The Guardian due to the need to protect families in Gaza from potential retribution. The judicial review is due to be held between the 8th and the 10th of October. The case has been brought by an alliance of NGOs including Al-Hag, Global Legal Action Network, Amnesty International, Oxfam and Human Rights Watch. It is the first attempt to put such a graphic testimony of alleged Israeli war crimes in front of a British judge since Hamas launched its deadly attack on October 7th, in which more than 1,100 Israelis were killed and 250 were taken hostages. The previous Conservative administration defended its decision to continue to grant licenses, saying they were insufficient risk that UK weapons were being used in the war crimes. The Israeli Defense Force claims its actions in self-defense is in line with humanitarian law and that allegations of misconduct are investigated independently. One of the named witnesses, Dr. Ben Thompson, a Canadian kidney specialist, said he treated a patient who had been forced to stand for 48 hours, requiring a skin graft on his heel. He is said to also treated a 60-year-old man who had been stripped naked by Israeli forces, whose wrists had been bound tightly for 3 days, who had been dragged to the floor, causing his wrists to be worn down to the bone. Sorry for this graphic detail, guys. Simon says 55. Good to see you, buddy. Hope you're doing well. Now, I really... I honestly, we knew where the Conservatives stood on this, but Labour are under pressure to do more here. He said every part of the healthcare system has been targeted and destroyed and is now completely incapable of providing care. So many people are dying from the issue that is completely treatable. He said he had personally treated 3 children whom he could have saved if they had any access to appropriate medicines. He testified when he visited the tent city of Rafka in March. Water was rationed to 3 litres a day, where there was 1 toilet for every 800 people. He was forced to reset bones without pain mediation. And on one occasion, such was the overcrowding in the hospital that a man in his care died on the floor in a pool of his own blood and brain matter. Sorry for the description, guys, if this is a bit much for you. In his second name, a witness statement, Dr. Kailash Donis, a consultant surgeon at University Hospital London, said the conditions in hospitals on both his trips were what he imagined medieval medicine must have been like. He said many of the patients were victims of sniper fire. He said, I understand that Israel justifies its attacks on hospitals by referencing to its claims that the hospitals are overrun by militias. But in my 4 weeks in Al Asiya hospital, I personally did not see a single one, he said. He met many patients who had clearly been beaten in detention camps, and one patient who had been dragged along the ground by external fixtures, holding his broken limbs together. There is... I've literally said this in the Rumble videos, guys. And I'm going to say it to you guys here. Like, every single school, every single hospital, every single public building that they have struck, they have said, ooh, there's a Hamas command center there. Or there's a Hamas tunnel there. Or that's where Hamas are hiding out there. They said that every single time. And then when it turns out it's not, oh, we're going to independently investigate this and we will let you know. This is the same lines you get every single time when you hear about it. He said on his second visit he found the morale staff had deteriorated, and by April there was a sense of fatalism that would never end. Another consultant based in Britain, but not being named, detailed how he said a group of doctors were bombed at so-called safe houses on the 18th of January. And he said that the episode acted in the impediment of NGOs to stop sending humanitarian workers, and despite assurances given by British diplomats in Cairo that the attack would have been taken up to the highest level in the UK, he claimed nobody in government in London contacted the medical team. Charlotte Andrew Briscoe, a barrister acting for GOAN, who has complied and submitted the evidence, said only limiting factor in compiling the witness statement was the sheer number of cases of mistreatment and abuse. I really hope this works. I really hope this forces the Labour government's hands. I really, really hope so, guys. We need this to stop. And Britain needs to just literally take its part on this. We know that Israel friends. There's an Israeli friendly group within the Labour Party. We know that. We know there's connections within the government to Israeli groups. We know that. But this government also knows how the public's feeling overall about what's happening in Gaza. And yes, they can continuously keep saying all about how they want to cease fire and whatnot. But as long as we are complicit in this alleged genocide, and we don't know until the ICJ gives its full verdict. Until we have that full verdict, we have to call it alleged genocide. I know the evidence is very clear there, guys, but until the ICJ say it, I say it doesn't really matter what other opinions in. But and until then, it's just a case of what ifs, what aboutisms, really. I don't know if the lawyers have. I'd like to think that these lawyers, with enough evidence, will say to the British courts, "Look, you have to force the government's hand here." Now, are the courts going to follow? The thing is, the question I also have is are the UK court? Are they going to follow the law here, or are they going to bend the law here for their friends in Israel? That's what I'm worried about. Part of me thinks that they might try and bend the rules there. That's my concern about all this, to be fair. The entire speech of shoot the civilian because there is a terrorist behind it is a spat in the graves of all the Jewish people that perished in the Holocaust, says Jow. But I suppose the Old Testament stayed in the eye, an eye for an eye part, he says there. As a voter, I want to know what my government is doing. I want to know them to be clear, even if I do not agree with them, says Jow. Excuse me. Sometimes secrecy is necessary. Yes, sometimes secrecy is necessary. I agree with that, number 3. If that were relating to the SNP story. But the question I want to know is, was it approved by John Sweeney and the Scottish Government, the meetings? And if it was not, why is he still in his role? Why is he still minister? Definitely not a good move by SNP, but Scotland is not allowed. It's not allowed a political voice. Yeah, we know they're not been allowed a political voice for quite a long time. Yeah, I hope you got. Yeah, I hope you guys all had a nice weekend. Anyway, I know to talk about. It was about the S&P. Yeah, I just said that. Yeah, obviously with regards to the S&P there. Yeah, as I said, the minister definitely has questions there. But just a final point, obviously with Gaza, you guys. I've said this 1,000 times, and I will continue to do so. Condemn what Hamas did. It was absolutely atrocious. We need a ceasefire. The guns need to be put down. We need to make. They need to allow aid, medicine supplies as much as it can into Gaza as soon as possible, and they need to just step back. They need to step back, Israel, because they are not helping the situation. Mark Wilkie, good to see you, buddy. Hope you're doing well. So this next one I've got for you guys before we take a little breaky here. This is an exclusive from iNews, and it's a very scary one, especially if you're someone who lives in the UK. So HMRC scam letters to take out fraudulent loans is the most believable experts have ever seen. So an expert has called on HMRC to design a scammer-proof letters. So if you, I'm just going to show you. I don't know. I'm just going to show you this picture here. Like, would you believe that is that's a fake letter? If you got a letter from HMRC, would you believe that was fake? Because I'm looking at that, and that looks real to me. And I know what HMRC letters look like, and that looks very real to me. That's really scary. That is incredibly scary, guys. So let's read a bit into this. But yeah, it's quite worrying, to say the least. I mean, it's easy to say. Yeah, it does look very well, QA Library. Good to see you, buddy. Hope you're doing well. But yeah, it's not real. It's a fake, and it's incredibly worrying. So before I even read into this, my best response to someone is if you get a letter. I mean, I know it's a time consuming. If you get a letter, yeah, the link is in the description. It's under the iNews story. I will say if you get a letter, might even be worth if you get something like this. Here, something like this, for asking to verify your financial information, might be worth. I don't know. Obviously, my best solution is to call up HMRC by their main number and whatnot. The scan code will surely treat this up. Now, how often do people look at that scan code and actually scan it as well? Yeah, let's read into this, guys. So, a scam letter proposing to be from HM Revenue and Customs HMRC is the most believable a tax expert has ever seen, he told the Eye. The fraudulent letter, which has been sent to an unknown number of people, uses the right technical legislation and language to try and trick people into handing over sensitive tax details. The scammers are claiming to be a tax compliance team, asking for firms to send over VAT returns and bank statements, which could trick people into thinking it's really from HMRC. Such a goal for Director of Tax Investigations at Assets, a specialist accountant, SEB. And by the way, just for reference, guys, just to remind everybody, any stories that I always give you guys they are always linked in the descriptions, whether it's live streams or videos. There's the articles of whatever I cover are always linked in the description, just for reference, guys. The information could then be used to commit identity theft, with fraudsters potentially able to take out loans and money in the company's team, as well as funds from directors' bank accounts, the former tax inspector added. But I'm just trying to picture myself. Can I ever see HMRC contacting me like this and saying that we need to take your I don't know. Like, a part of me can see the realization in this. I'm just trying to see where like, here's the thing, guys. I'm trying to think how an average person cannot can see through this lie? How will the average Joe see that this is not see through this to see this as a lie? And the trouble I have is I don't know where they will see the lie in this, because it looks so goddamn real. I guess maybe the question is about, obviously, when it's asking about financial information, it could be that could be the question there. I mean, it's easy for me to say, oh, you should just call up HMRC and find out. But if anyone from the UK knows, it's an absolute pain in the backside to get to speak to anyone from HMRC. You are on call waiting sometimes up to a half an hour, even longer, to speak to someone from HMRC. It's an absolute pain in the backside. So some people may not even go and spend 30 minutes of their time to speak to someone from HMRC about a potential letter like this. The letter received by a client of assets claims to have been sent in response to a government initiative aimed at verifying declared incomes. It says on paper with a HMRC letterhead and that this is trying to prevent tax evasion. The letter asked the recipients to send business bank statements and VAT returns for the past 4 quarters. It warned that HMRC could freeze business activities if information is not sent over. Most conducting business, obviously. Mr. Goldford said the scammers went out of their way to try and use genuine HMRC team details, and this could trick people into thinking it's really from HMRC. The situation has not helped as the nudge letters, campaign letters, and non-standard inquiry letters are devoid of any contact details for a HMRC officer, including the email address. He said a colleague became suspicious after the email address on the letter was not one previously used by HMRC. Wow. It's only because that if we are to avoid this potential destructive situation, it is incumbent on HMRC to better design their letters to be scammer-proof, he added. I think like we have with counterfeit money, I think they need to use, I think the letters need to be, they need to have that specialist material on them. You know, like how, like this, I can't remember what the material is used on the notes that we use now, the material, but they need to have something like that, I think, on letters. I know it's expensive, but they need to bulletproof these letters. I really think they do. Artibus, good to see you there. I hope you're doing well. People sometimes have tunnel vision regularly. If it looks real enough, people will just go with it. Trust emotions without thinking. Yeah, because the thing is that if somebody's not 100% sure, they're not going to spend 30 minutes on the phone talking to HMRC. That's the thing. HMRC will have your last 4 VAT returns on file. Why would they ask for them? Remember the story last year about HMRC helplines being shut down for 6 months of a year or more? I don't remember that story, Andrew Luke. The scam only needs a few to believe to get paid by those to be success. Conserved up on the plate, get nibblers. He said it was not clear how many of the letters have been sent out, and they may be targeting businesses at random. He told the eye this is probably the best scam letter I have ever seen, and they have sought to use HMRC's team and use right technical legislation and language. Previously, others have used non-UK tax legislation. It's entirely possible that the scammers here could potentially be people who have worked for HMRC in the past, or have deep knowledge of how HMRC works in their letters and have spent a lot of time looking at them as well. It could potentially be used to identify the theft of both the companies and directors, to take out loans, funds from companies and directors' bank account, and possibly VAT fraud, he added. See, I got, let me see if I got it here. Hold on. I'm not going to show you it, but 1 second. I think I have something. Now, I'm not going to put it on camera because obviously it's sensitive Let me start that again. So I got I'll start that again. Apologies. So I got a letter from HMRC a couple of months ago on something, and I'm just looking at this letter here in comparison, and I mean it's not the same thing, but I'm looking at this, and then I'm looking at that. Like it's very hard for me to distinguish that says to me, something's wrong here. You know, the reference thing is a bit of a giveaway as well. No, it's not a giveaway. No, I'll take that back, actually. No, they do put references on them, to be fair. Yeah, I'm just having a look, yeah, because obviously I've got something here from HMRC a couple of months ago. I should have got rid of it already. Well, I should have shredded it already, but it's just giving me a pause for thought here. Let's just have a look at it in detail, guys. So, so it's got it's all good compliance, HMRC. We're writing in response to a recent government initiative aimed at verifying declared incomes. As part of this scheme, you are required to submit certain documents to ensure compliance and transparency in your financial declarations. This is so we can identify businesses that are not declaring their full income and to prevent tax evasion and tax fraud. Please tell us if you have any health or personal circumstances that may be difficult for you to deal with us. We'll help you in whatever we can. For more information, please go dove.uk and search for Get Help from HMRC if you need extra support. In accordance with the government's requirement, we kindly request the following documents. ... Business bank statements from the last 13 months. And then completing our checks. Once we have verified your information, we'll let you know we're satisfied with the information you provide. Please send us all the requested documents by email to companiesreview@hmrc.taxshit.org, quoting the reference number at the top of the page by 20th of August. Please feel free to email us if you have any questions. If you do not reply, we will conduct an investigation. Right there, that email, that email is straight away is the you can see it right there. That's the fraud right there. That's very clear to me. Because they would not, HMRC would not ask you to send it to us. They would not. I'm not. This does not look right to me at all. Yeah, that looks very dodgy. It's an org as well. Company reviews at hmrc.taxcheck.org. Yeah. Yeah, that is a very big giveaway. Yeah, QA library. That's a very big giveaway there. Yeah, if you look at... Yeah, that's the only big giveaway, though. But everything else... But if you take that away and you look at everything else, guys, it looks legitimate. Yeah, you look at that front page and you're looking there, that looks very legitimate. That tiny little thing, if you pay enough attention to it... Like, because the thing is, they would surely they would reference... you know, that just doesn't look right to me, that email at all. Experts have said it can be difficult to tell if a letter is fraudulent if it contains a dodgy email photo. Other tax experts have also warned about the scam. So Dan Nestle of Tax Policy Associate wrote on social media, "This is a very smart, evil scam. The web's savvy will immediately spot the dodgy email address, but I bet plenty won't." Yeah, a lot of people will fall for that very easily. He added that while many would have spotted the dodgy email, there are plenty of other recipients who may not. How can I tell if a letter is fraudulent? There are often several ways to determine whether a letter claiming to be from HMRC is real or not. It is always worth checking any phone number or email address provided online to see if they're actually associated with HMRC or not. If it is a scam, it could well be fake. Chris Ansley, head of fraud risk management at Santander, advised people to never make a payment to HMRC if they contact you out of the blue, even if you're threatened with police or court action, and to never be pressured into sharing personal or financial information with anyone. If you receive a letter that asks for your bank details, then you should always err on the side of caution. Contact HMRC using the details on their official website to discuss the content of the letter. Yes, that is one thing you should always do. if you should always go from the gov website, the HMRC Gov website. Always go by the Gov website, because that way you can find out for sure. It can sometimes be a bit of a. It can sometimes be like search up on this. Don't just go by the letter. Search up on this. Yeah, go by the Gov website. A HMRC spokesperson said, criminals are great pretenders and they are various methods to try and dupe citizens, often mimicking government messages to make them appear authentic. Tax scams come in many forms. Some offer a rebate, others tell you that your tax details are out of date or threaten immediate arrest for tax evasion. Never let yourself be rushed. If someone contacts you saying that they're HMRC wanting you to urgently transfer money or give personal information, be on your guard. We will never ring up threatening arrest. Only criminals do that. Unexpected contracts like these should set alarm bells ringing, so take your time and check HMRC's scam advice on gov.uk. Those who receive potentially fraudulent communications can report them to Action Fraud, which is the UK's National Reporting Centre for Fraud and Cybercrime. Yeah, looking at that email is very worrying to say the least there. But yeah, it's definitely... This is definitely when I first saw the story, I was kind of like, I thought, huh, how bad could it be? And then when I looked at the images, I was like, whoa. So it really did send a lot of, that is very scary to say the least, guys. What have you guys got to say in the chat on it? HMRC government can block emails to addresses. Thanks, ZQA. I wasn't aware of that. Yeah, that's the only red flag I see. Genie Bottle says fraud is getting very falsified and hard to detect if not aware. If it's not, thanks for that, Genie. Jao says if it is how you folks are saying, no wonder people get fooled. And folks in the chat, can't you go to a local tax offices? There isn't really, there aren't, yeah, as Andy Carr just pointed out, there are no local tax offices really. It's pretty much a case of telephone online now. I think obviously some people, when it comes to that, some older people don't have, maybe will go to their bank, but yeah, there's not really a tax offices. Well, not, there might be some in like central in London maybe, but people don't. Yeah, it's all online, isn't it? It's the same thing with banks nowadays, isn't it? But maybe there should be, if the government are obviously introducing banking hubs, maybe they should have something there that if they can't deal with online, maybe they could talk to someone in a banking hub that can help them with that situation, perhaps, maybe. Genie Bottle says, also, I guess there might be some inside info from a previous or present worker. That's exactly what I was thinking. That's how I'm thinking as well. Jao says you can basically access all your data with a key if you ask your local service. That requires double checking from your phone number. Online access also works, as proven to be more effective here and in Spain. Here, the taxes opted for a type of sealed letter from a specific format is glued together, says Jao. Yeah. What's that message? Andrew Luke says, here we go. The announcement was HMRC helpline would be permanently closed between the 8th of April and 30th of September. The Tories rolled back on the decision within days, but inferred that they opened summer 2024. While they reconsider it for 2025, the Tories opened the opportunity for this crime. Well, you can... okay, so let me just... okay, so obviously when I set up my... So obviously, during from the time that I I actually had to phone up HMRC recently. Obviously, it wasn't the helpline, but even though I had to wait 20, 30 minutes or so, I still ended up getting to speak to someone about an issue that I had. I think it was about a month or so ago. I spoke to someone at HMRC about something. So even if the helpline is not there, there is still like they have like an automatic system. It's like dial wherever to go to whatever thing you need to go to, and it'll take you to somebody. If you jump through you have to jump through a few hoops, but you will eventually talk to someone from HMRC, an actual person, So I'm not too aware about the helpline, but I do have a number to call, or well, I've got multiple. Well, there's different numbers obviously for HMRC, but you can still talk to someone Monday to Friday from 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. I think it's 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. Monday to Friday. If you need to talk to somebody from HMRC, there's someone there to talk to. So, so I'm not too sure about I can't speak too much about the helpline, Andrew Luke. But if people need to speak to someone, they can still speak to someone. There is options there for people. Literally, if you go to the website, there are numbers there. There are contact numbers there. It's not just a case of sending an email and waiting for a response. You can actually speak to someone if you really need to as well. In my humble opinion, you do need a physical space and operational helpline. Sometimes there are issues, but they work properly. It's entirely possible. If I type in local tax office, I probably would. The thing is, I've never felt that I needed to go to a local tax office. I'm sure if I look it up, I'd look something up in London or something, because I technically I do live in London, so there is probably something. Sigma Moran says tax department banks here advertise that they never write, phone or email you requesting personal info, bank details, etc. Yeah, thanks for that, Steve. Does make me wonder, obviously, if you're somebody who owes the taxman money, though, would they not try to contact you? So, what's the response to that one? We are going to keep talking about this, I'm sure. Well, I don't know if we'll talk about this again. Maybe I'll find another story on it, but this one's definitely one interesting one to talk about anyway, guys. So we're going to take a little break, guys. I've got a couple more stories. I've actually got an exclusive one we'll talk about in just a moment as well. But I wanted to share a classic one from Rosie Holt for you guys. I hope you guys enjoy this funny video, just to kind of break the ice a little bit. This one is from Rosie Holt with the title "That MP Talks About a Book She Has Written." Hope you guys enjoy this one.
We have a guest in the studio that we have wanted to have in the studio for many months. Welcome to you.
Thank you. I've been wanting to be here for many months, but I've been busy working on my book, Why We Were Right. And I would say, John and Lewis, that if you have any doubts about whether the Conservatives should be in office again, you should read this book. It explains why Brexit was such a good idea, the difference between a party and an essential party, how the Rwanda scheme is compassionate and that it will definitely go ahead. In fact, John, I'll bet you on that.
What on earth were you thinking when you handed over to Isabel Oakeshott those 100,000 plus WhatsApp messages?
Well, I was thinking Isabel is my friend. Isabel cares about the country. Isabel cares about this book. And she leaked Matt Hancock's, but she won't do it to mine. I mean, she hasn't replied to my text yet, but you know, I wrote a book.
You wrote a book for which you handed over these messages, which was an attempt to manage your reputation.
No, it's not my reputation. The government's reputation, which has been smashed by wokies, and Liz Truss leads me to understand trans activists too.
You do seem particularly accident prone.
No, John, I'm human. Not accident prone, human. A human being wrote this book and a human being can buy this book. It's not available till July because of shipping issues, to stop the boats. But you can pre-order it now. So please do that. Join me on the trail for my book and let's make Britain great again.
Yeah, we still gotta wait for them to come, guys, because obviously the boats are causing issues. That's an old one from Rosie Holt. I've obviously remembered the story about Isabel Oakeshott stabbing Matt Hancock in the back. That story, guys. If you guys remember that story vaguely as well. God, there are too many scandals to keep up with, if I'm honest, guys. But yeah, that was a good one. So guys, if you haven't already, please hit the like button. We greatly appreciate it. Please share this across social media so others are notified of this video. If you haven't subscribed already, please consider subscribing because it really does help support the channel. So thank you to everyone who has done so. It's greatly appreciated. Also, if you're a YouTube member, being a YouTube member, whether you're 99p or 299 membership, get access to early custom emojis like these guys, these gang behind me. They are here. They are here. But we might not see much of them this week and next week, I'm afraid, because of plans that I have. But they are here. Ollie, Pingu. Ollie is the octopus on the top with the orb. And Pingu is the penguin, or the communist spy, as a certain person likes to call. And the cookie monster hiding behind Pingu is Cash Dummy. And we have emojis of all of them for members. So if anyone wants to use those emojis as members, you're more than welcome to do so. And any financial support obviously really does help. This is my only income at the moment, guys. So any financial support is obviously greatly appreciated. So whether it's YouTube membership, super chats, or buy me a coffee or Patreon, any of those would be greatly appreciated. So thank you to everyone and everyone who's done so. Really, really appreciate it. Just a quick reminder as well. There will be no live stream on Wednesday of the Snowflake Watch. If I get back home in time and my voice is not dead, I will do a live stream on Thursday night of the Snowflake Watch. That is not a guaranteed live stream. Although I have scheduled it for you guys, it is not a guaranteed one. It just depends how I feel, guys. So I'm just warning you guys now. There will be no live stream on Friday either, because I actually have some plans, planned stuff in, and I want to get some content done for you guys over that week, for the weekend ahead as well, because I will not be able to do any content whatsoever for Saturday, Sunday, or Monday over that weekend. I have mega plans ahead of that weekend, just for reference, but I'll talk a little bit more about it all later. So the next one I've got is an exclusive from the Independent, guys. This is a very interesting one here, and I think this is definitely where you can really whack Labour with a hammer here, or shall we say with a bat, yeah, to say at least the Labour government here. And if you read into this very carefully, it really does. I can totally understand this. So Labour's incapable of tackling racism and Islamophobia amid far-right violence towards the NEC member. So the exclusive reveals that Labour's National Executive Committee member accuses the party of not providing the right solutions and criticises the failure to brand the recent riots as terrorism. So this is the problem, because the majority, well, because of the rioters, as we call them, far right fuckatries, because they were white, they were not branded as terrorists. But if it had been the opposite end, guys, if these had been brown-skinned, Muslims, Asian, they would have been branded as terrorists. That's not just my opinion. We know they would be. I seriously cannot tell me in the chat, guys, that if it had been on the opposite end, if all these people who had caused all these vandalists, or all this damage, all this rioting, the attacks on police officers, the burning of hotels and all that, if these were black people, if these were Asian people, if these were brown people, if they were Muslim, if they were doing this, yeah, this government would immediately, and all the papers would be calling them terrorists. They'd be branding them all terrorists. But because they're white people, we can't brand them terrorists. Someone tell me I'm wrong. The Labour government is incapable of tackling racism and Islamophobia effectively. A member of his own national committee has claimed in the wake of the widespread race riots. In an exclusive interview with The Independent, Labour's National Executive Committee member Michelle Rumkin has criticised Sir Keir Starmer for his failure to categorise the attacks as terrorism. He claimed that the reluctance to label the violence as an act of terrorism reveals a troubled double standard. Don't worry about Jasper. He's fine. He's just having a moment. He claimed the reluctance to label the violence as an act of terrorism reveals a troubling double standard, adding, "It suggests to me that it is terrorism when only committed by a Muslim. Language matters." Yeah, 100%. So Keir Starmer's got no leg to stand on this one. He really hasn't. This view was echoed by Britain's former head of counter-terrorism, Neil Bastu, who warned that the worst far-right violence, seen during the riots across the country should be treated as terrorism during the start of the disorder. It is terrorism because people were terrified, people were scared, people were worried. So, what? I mean, I just don't. Sorry, guys. Just I'm gonna have to. Sorry, I need to tell something to the missus. Right. She'll deal with it now. Sorry, it's the cat, guys. It's distracting me. Apologies. Yeah, I mean, like, because it's simply down to the color of the skin, and this is pure racism. It's racism. It's what it is. I mean, it's just I just don't know what more to really say. Time off. I don't know if I really want to go on a sweary rant, but it does really really upset me, guys. It really does, because we should not be treating people indifferently by the color of their skin. But that's exactly what this is. And I'm sorry, Keir Starmer has failed to call it what it is. Yeah, because if it had been a group of Muslims, if it had been a group of brown people, if it had been a group of black people, he would have blatantly called it terrorism. The police would call it terrorism. But they can't do it because it's white British people. So you can see the hypocrisy right there. Mr. Raman's comments come in the wake of the nationwide violence sparked by the tragic incident in Southport, where 3 girls were killed and a knife attack at a dance class. It's triggered a wave of far-right violence, with mobs storming into several hotels housing asylum seekers, immigration law firms and centres, after false rumours and misinformation fueled the claim that the attacker was a Muslim asylum seeker. One of the many alarming incidences occurred at the Southport Islamic Centre, where rioters besieged the mosque, burning cars and pelting the building with rocks, leaving Muslims fearing for their lives. Expressing his dismay at the event, the NEC members accused party leaders of not saying enough to call out the widespread targeting of ethnic minorities. Yeah. The Conservatives are guilty of intentionally stoking division and hatred, he said. The Labour Party, in my opinion, has not shown that it has the solutions or the understanding of how to deal with racism. I think, in my opinion, obviously not calling it for what it is definitely a criticism. However, I stand by what I said before, in that I thought Keir Starmer and the Labour government handled the UK riots with the best they possibly could in the situation. Now, yes, you could have argued that perhaps they could have had a Cobra meeting sooner. That is definitely another criticism. But I don't think there was enough there to say that Labour should have done more. Mike, please. It doesn't say to me that... it doesn't come across to me to say that... I'm trying to find the right words to put together. It doesn't come across to me to say that... What the thing is, apart from the language, what more could Labour have done? Like, they had lots and lots of meetings with the police, and they said to the police, we'll give you what you need to get this under control. Like, what more could have Labour done? In my, like, I honestly like you guys to tell me, what more, apart from the language that Keir Starmer used, what really could the Labour government more have done? Like, did we really want them to call in the army? Earlier this year, Mr. Ramadan branded the party as institutional, Islamophobic and racist, following the deselection of former Labour candidate Faisal Shonin, and previously accusing the now Prime Minister of gaslighting over his response to the crisis in Gaza. Yeah, this is not helping the situation at all. While Mr. Ramadan welcomes Keir's recent efforts to protect ethnic minority communities after hundreds of rioters were arrested and charged with their violent action, he argued the discussion and language around migration needs urgent change. Yeah. Before the election, you had Jonathan Ashworth and Keir Starmer bragging about sending back Bangladeshi people back to Bangladesh because it is a safe country. He hasn't aged well with what's happened in the Bangladesh since then. He added, we cannot disconnect the language with the subsequent actions. These are reactionary responses to problems which require sensible language and solutions. Yes. Just because the far right, just because people within the right-wing media and commentators and political analysts on the right or centre-right or whatever you want to call them, just because they use that language does not mean we need to use that language as well. We should not have to. We shouldn't be. The saying I always go is don't sink to their level, guys, ever. And that's a path that I feel like Labour are heading down. Not because they want to, but because of political reasons. Because they're afraid of a minority of people in the country, who are worried about immigration, and are fixated on it. Because of what the media has been telling them, because of what online forums and QAnon theories and Facebook groups and what Andrew Tate is saying, what Nigel Farage is saying, all these groups are definitely having an influence on them. Calling for a more compassionate approach to discussion on migration, he said the right solutions to this problem are to speak about migration with compassion for minorities, without demonetizing them, by pointing out the real causes of immigration and not making it out or supporting a theory that immigrants are to blame for society's ills. Everyone that's a person of colour is under threat, he said. Even Rishi Sunak didn't escape the racism of reform activists. He ended up being called the P word. Yeah, people forget about that, remember? He got called that as well. Today we are facing the same threats our parents faced when they came here in the 70s and 80s. The Independent has approached the Labour Party for comment. In the wake of the far-right riots, the Prime Minister has told those who feel targeted because of the colour of their skin or faith that the violent mob does not represent this country. No, they don't represent this country, and I think that's really important. It's very important to emphasise that they don't represent this country. That really does, I have a pagan view on it, says Jow. Now, forgive me for not being very trusted in British media. The difference between violence and terrorism is the organised and deliberate targeting that it implies, at least in the judicial definition of it around here, says Jow. Genie Bottle says violent thugs and now violent colour from anger. Even the Greens joined the combative party mindset. Uncanny waterfront people will invest in places now in land but near their new coast. Jow says, but Labour response now has to be harsh and clear. If it's organised riots, it's terrorism, simple enough, no matter who's doing it. Unfair blaming Labour that arrived now. These are evils that have been festering for decades and years ago, but they should be branded terrorists, Jow says to me. Yeah. I'm not even apologetic anymore. You were warned about Labour in power. I fully accept the Tories have had to go, but tell me that Labour are doing a sterling job. My response to that, Stephen, is you cannot. It's too early to say that. I said judge them on the first 100 days. They've only been in power for a month and a half, and I can keep saying that because they have only been. And you have to also remember that we're in a time period where most of them, unfortunately, some of them are on holiday, which is obviously not an ideal time, but this is the time slot where MPs are supposed to take a break as well. So there's that as well. So I understand how, especially for those up in Scotland, I understand how you feel about Labour, but I have to say it. We have to see how they do, at least after 100 days. We have to see what they're going to introduce in the budget. Point out the good things where they've done good, and point out the bad things that they don't do. I think that's my best response to that. But I often have a pagan view, says number 3. Never blame immigrants. Expats, however, says Simon says 55. Yes. I've heard plenty of stories. All Schultz has covered plenty of stories from expats, from Brits out there living in Spain, in France, and whatnot. Labour could have implemented Levison's 2, says Andy Carter. You're absolutely right. They could have implemented Leveson 2. You're absolutely 100% right. Well, I covered a story a while ago where, whether it's true or not, I don't know, but Rupert Murdoch made a deal with Keir Starmer that not to impose the Leveson. Inquirer, Leveson too. I don't know how true that is, but that might have been that might have been how he got the backing of the Sun during the election, from the Sun newspaper during the run up to the election campaign. Because you remember the Sun did back Labour in the end, didn't they? So yeah, he didn't get the support of the Times. Another rumour mill was that the Times wanted guarantees that there would be no media reforms. Keir Starmer did not guarantee that, apparently, according to the meetings that he had with the Times, to get their endorsement. Again, I don't know how true that is, but you can only take it with a pinch of salt, unfortunately. But as for this story, guys, I will say, obviously, that, you know, not branding people a certain section simply by the colour of their skin is racist. It is practically racist. Like, even, you know, obviously you could argue what is defined as terrorism. Well, do you define terrorism by a person's colour of their skin? I think that's the question. Do you define terrorism by the colour of their skin? No, I don't think anyone here defies terrorism by the colour of their skin, in my opinion. But by their words and by their actions, I think as well, is what we should be. Is what should be. That should be the case. It's crazy. They didn't even really need the Murdoch backing this time. Yeah, they didn't need it, but they still got it anyway. So I've got two more stories before we wrap things up, guys. I'm just going to run through this one. I want to spend a bit of time with the last piece. So this one, we've talked a little bit about it, but I just wanted to share this one with you from the BBC. It was so Nigel Farage denies that almost £100,000 a month of GB News salary. So we talked a little bit about this. I think this is about this last week anyway. But let's just read what he has. So basically, Nigel Farage is saying, no, I denied all of this, to be fair. And I think this is really important to highlight that as more and more MPs' interests have been exposed, you also have to remember that this is only what they have declared. There may be more that they haven't declared as well. Tories Don't Get Tasered said, well, he did attend Murdoch's birthday party after all. He's also deeply untrustworthy. Yeah, 100% Tories Don't Get Tasered. Good to see you, buddy. Hope you're doing well. Yeah, absolutely 100% true. He did attend that. He has had meetings with Keir Starmer in the past. I've said this in the past on the channel as well, which people wasn't, whether you want to believe it or not. He has had those meetings. We know that. So Nigel Farage has denied paying almost £100,000 a month to present a show on GB News. When I put a story on a video about this, the first comment I got, I think it was like, how can GB News afford this? And my answer to you is because of those who don't know, GB News is obviously running on a deficit. They're not making any money whatsoever. But they're getting lots and lots. They're getting bankrolled by their owners. By the owners bankrolling GB News. And they're pouring money into it because it is a propaganda machine, GB News. So they're obviously throwing a shed ton of their money towards Nigel Farage as well. So when people ask how are they able to pay this, if it is true, that's how they're paying for it. They're not allegedly paying for it. It's the owners who are just throwing money at GB News to keep it going. So his entry in the recent published Parliamentary Register of Interest shows that GB News is paying his country Thorn and Side Limited £97 million for what amounts to 32 hours of work a month. 32 hours of work a month. The sum would have meant he had earned more than £1 million a year on top of his MP salary of £91,000 as well. How dare you suggest Nigel isn't working class? Yeah, he's working 30 plus hours. He is working 30 plus hours. But how many of those hours is he spending in his constituency of Clacton? Oh, that's right. He doesn't even have an office set up there. Right. The Clacton MP has since told the BBC that the sums actually covers work he carries out since 1st of April 2024 and includes services such as media consultancy as well as his presenter role. Mr. Farage said the figure was gross sum including VATs to pay for his firm. He said he did not get a fixed monthly fee from GB News, but he paid very around amount as the contract. You notice how he's trying to really backtrack on this and just to say, like, I'm still one of you guys. I'm still one of you guys. You know, I'm not like, I'm still one of the average Joe. I'm still that bloke in the pub, you know, even though I've got more money than you. He's trying really hard to stop this picture being painted of him by all the statements about him earning this much money. In a statement posted on X, Mr. Farage said, "To be clear, GB News sum paid to me the declared interest VAT and was for several months of work. It was paid to my company, which has significant expenses. Sorry to disappoint the media." The Reform UK leader has also declared incomes of £4,000 a month for writing for the Daily Telegraph and payments of $16 million for recording personalised video messages, such as birthday greetings for individuals through his Cameo.com website. Cameo.com website is not a website that he owns. Basically, anyone can set up a Cameo on there. It's really not that hard. I could set up my own Cameo and then ask people to pay me for do them messaging videos if they wanted me to. Lots of sport figures and all sorts of celebrities do it. So, yeah. He has also declared earnings from social media, including 1.5 million from X and £853 from Meta, which owns Facebook. The total time Mr. Farage estimates he spent his work outside Parliament for his TV, video recording and newspaper, while inequities to around 72 hours a month, the equivalent of 9 full working days. He has suspended GB News TV show, which airs Monday to Thursday weekly to focus on the election campaign, but has now returned to the channel. The disclosures were made in the latest Register of Members' Financial Interest published by Parliament. It is drawn up by the House of Commons officials based on information provided to them by MPs. All MPs have to register their financial interest within 28 days of a new Parliament beginning, with newly elected MPs required to declare any relevant interest in the year prior to the election. They must also notify the Commons of any changes of additions that happen throughout the Parliament within 28 days. Though 16 grand from Cameo. Yeah, I know. 16 grand from Cameo. It's insane, absolutely insane. But it will, you know, people will pay him to say certain things. You know, if someone pays me enough money, pays me to say certain things, then I'll do it. Like if you put a super chat in, obviously I'll say it. Obviously, it's the same thing, you know. Yeah, but the thing is, that's exactly the same thing in Cameo. You know, you ask him to like wish you a happy birthday or whatever, and people will pay for it. People will want it because of because of the kind of figure that he is, and it works for him. They don't have to agree with it. As for this, obviously, like Phil Morehouse, Phil from a Different Bias, says that Richard Tice actually earns more money than Farage. Apparently, don't know how true that is, but that's what he claims anyway. But this does, like, him trying to brush it off. It just feels like he's just trying to brush off the money that he's earning, sort of thing. It's just like, yeah, man of the people, Nigel Farage, guys, definitely a man of the people. Gotta hand it to him, guys. Gotta hand it to him. So before I go to the next, the final piece here, guys, I just want to say, if you want to financially support me in any way, shape or form, you can do so by becoming a YouTube member for as little as 99p, or being a $2.99 membership. It gets you access to custom emojis and access to membership community posts. And whenever you comment on any of my videos as a YouTube member, whether it's a 99p or $2.99 member, I always respond to your comment. Sometimes it takes a couple of days for me to respond, but I normally do. If you're a $2.99 member, you get early access for additional content. For those who are Snowflake Corporals, you'll know that there is already additional content there waiting for you guys already that I put up today. Otherwise, you can financially support me. It's by buying me a coffee. Link is in the description. Or by joining me on Patreon. If you join me on Patreon, you get exclusive content on that platform as well. The list of content that's going to be exclusively available for free on Rumble and Patreon will be dropping tomorrow morning on tomorrow morning's post as well. So I have done content for Patreon and Rumble for those who are wondering. So remember, you can see that content for free, guys, on those platforms. Just have a quick look in the chat what you guys are saying there. Nigel was like the character Family Guy or The Simpsons. That is extremely disrespectful to Family Guy and The Simpsons. They are so much funnier and more evil and more humorous, and then Nigel Farage will be. Yes, Nigel Farage did indeed do a cameo where he said up the Ra for £150. That is absolutely true, Andrew. if you actually type it in, you could probably find it on Google somewhere, because it was spread all over. Oh, you type it in on X, it'll come up on there, to be fair. There have been more sightings of a Surrey panther than of Nigel Farage in Clacton. How many MPs could earn a 90 grand plus expenses for everything in the real world? Exactly, Mark. This is the biggest thing that I absolutely bloody hate. I hate that that they feel that they need to that the money that they earn as an MP is not enough. It's pathetic. They don't need to earn more than that. There are some circumstances where you can argue that it's justifiable, but to me, it does piss me off a little bit that these guys earn so much bloody money and they just don't give a shit about their constituents. They don't give a shit about their jobs. And I'm like, why are you an MP if you're not even going to bother doing the bloody job? It's just like they just get the job and they just bugger off. Number 3 says bye. Oh, are you leaving, number 3? Thanks for popping by. You still got one more story, but oh, don't worry, One Angry Pagan. You're here anyway, so it's much appreciated. So let's talk about this last story, guys. Self-harm rates in the UK's immigration centres soar, following reports that they found the worst conditions ever seen. So in July, a report on the UK's largest immigration detention centre found it was filthy and diabetic and had drug problems. So obviously we're talking specifically about in immigration centres, obviously here, guys. But self-harm, I don't ever want to know what it's like for anyone to try and inflict self-harm upon themselves. I can imagine that it is incredibly scary, I would say. But I just, I just don't understand why we just cannot give the basic standards to immigrants in the same way we can with prisons. But we also know that 14 years of Conservatives, 14 years of cutback, 14 years of giving contracts to some of the companies that are running some of these things. We know that the company behind who runs some of these immigration centres are using the most littlest of money that they get, and they get big boom contracts from the government, and about 10% of that contract actually gets used to run the centres, and the majority of it just goes into their coffers. So it's literally taxpayer money that literally comes out of the government from these contracts that gets handed to these companies expected to manage these situations, but a big proportion of that money actually just goes to them, and the rest actually go, and then there's the tiny amount that they use, just the bare minimum to try and use for the immigration centres. Labour needs to crack down on this. They need to crack down on this, and they need to crack down on it fast. So the extreme distress and harm suffered by detainees at UK's immigration detention centres have been laid bare, with official figures showing that self-harm rates have soared there by 67%. Self-harm, guys, by 67%. Figures obtained under the Freedom of Information Act show that from June 2023 to May 2024, there were 513 instances of self-harm at UK immigration detention centres, up from 308 the previous year. 300 is still too much. 100 is still too much. We have 500. In the year to March 2024, there was a 51% increase in the number of people held in immigration detentions from the previous year, from 1,183 to 1,783, meaning the self-harm rates are rising faster than that of detention estate population. Edor Hani, head of advocacy at Medical Justice, described the figures as alarmingly high, adding, "It is well known that detention increases the risk of self-harm and suicide amongst us often already vulnerable population." From January to May 2024, there were 285 instances of self-harm across the UK's 10 immigration detention centres, meaning self-harm instances occurred almost twice a day during the 5-month period. The figures come as HM Inspectorate of Prisons, HMRP, reported on the Hundersworth Immigration Removal Centre. Published in July, it found that the site to have the worst conditions ever seen in immigration detention, with some areas of the centre described as filthy and I'm just going to say diabolical. It is the largest detention centre in Europe, holds only men, and the security in several wings comparable to a Category B high security prison, according to a charity detention action. Inspectors found that drug use had become increasingly prevalent at the centre, and that population pressures in prison have led to more ex-prisoners in the centre, often with serious offence in history. I'm sorry I'm losing slurping with my words, guys. I do apologise. I've been covering a lot of videos today, so I do apologise. Threats, abuse and theft were far more common at Hundersworth than other immigrant detention centres, the report entitled Hundersworth Immigration Removal Centre, Drugs, Despair and Discrepant Conditions Found. Self-harm prevention was poor at the site, with almost half of those who responded to a survey conducted by the inspectorate saying they had felt suicidal during their detention. While there have been no suicides since the last inspection, the report stated there had been some serious attempts, including one during the inspection that resulted in grave injuries to the detainee. Inspectors found that leaders had allowed a worrying lax culture to develop around suicide and self-harm prevention. In one instance, a man who had been placed on constant watch because he was assessed to be at imminent risk of self-harm was being watched by no one. According to FRI disclosure, there were 46 self-harm instances from January to May 2024 at Hundersworth. Some 454 were being held there at the time of February's inspection. Continued for people who have already faced violation, torture and persecution in their home countries being locked up in a detention centre once in the UK, then being held there indefinitely with no idea what their future holds, is invariably a terrifying, triggering experience. In September 2023, the Brookhouse Inquiry published its report on the Brookhouse Immigration Removal Centre, commissioned in a response to the 2019 BBC Panorama documentary, which uncovers abuse, bullying and violence by staff towards detainees. The chair of the inquiry, Kate Evers, described the culture of dehumanisation of detainee people at the centre, with custodial staff using force, unnecessary, inappropriately and excessively. The report pointed to 9 instances of credible breaches of Article 3 of the European Convention on Human Rights, which prohibits torture, inhuman and degrading treatment over a 5-month period at the site. It has also identified a wholesale breakdown in the system of safeguards designed to protect vulnerable detainee people. At Brookhouse, with Rule 35 1 and 2 report inconsistency inadequately completed. By the way, we're not talking about UK prisons, guys. We're talking about those who are holding immigrants, by the way. Rule 35 reports are some of the safeguard mechanism that enables GPs and immigration detention centres to communicate a detainee risk of harm to the Home Office. Rule 35 reports should be completed when there is suspicion of suicidal intention. So why hasn't the rules been followed? Like, what are we doing? Yeah, if you go in, if these inspectees go in, right? So here's a question I have. So if these inspectees are going in, right, and they see what's happening, they go away, tell them what they need to do, and they go away, they come back and they see it again. What do? What are they doing? Just imposing a fine and telling them, oh, you need to do more? Like, what's the next step, sort of thing? When you've gone in and you've seen what's happening, you tell them what needs to be done, you put it all in a report and send it into them and say, this is what needs to be done. Then you come back and you find that it hasn't been improved, and in fact things have got worse. What do you do the second time? Are you just going to send another report and tell them off? Like, are you going to fine the company behind it? Are you going to threaten the company in any way, shape or form? Like, what's the next step here? That's the question I have. Despite the inquiry recommended in review of the implementation of Rule 35 across the immigration detention estate, Figures from this year indicate that things have not improved. In the first quarter of 2024, only 14 Rule 35 reports were complete, despite there being 157 self-harm instances during that time. The July HMRC report found that Haltonworth found that health staff failed to make a Rule 35 report earlier when a detainee told them he was suicidal or when subsequent attempts to linger. The detention safeguarding system routinely fails to identify and protect those at risk of self-harm and suicide, said Hanley. The issues are still ongoing today across all immigration detention centres. In December 2023 last year, Medical Justice published a report evaluating changes that have been implemented since the Brooke House inquiry, and it found there had been no improvement in the completion of the Rule 35 report, stating that even after people attempted suicide, Rule 35 reports are rarely completed. When reports are completed, the assessment is often inadequate or incomplete, for example, misinformation such as in a suicide attempt. If you're going to do the bloody report, fill it in properly. Don't leave it half finished. They should be doing it every case. But they shouldn't be doing a botched job of writing the report either. There were 66 instances of self-harm at Brooke House from January to May 2024. At Collinbrook Immigration Removal Centre, located next to Heathrow Airport, there were 81 instances in the same period. In March 2024, there were 371 and 315 people held in Brooke House and Collinbrook, respectively. Government policy has also had an effect on suicide and self-harm rates on immigration detention. Medical Justice has identified a high risk of suicide among the cohort of 20 people that have been detained for removal to Rwanda. And in March 2024, a group of healthcare organisations, including the Royal College of Nursing, issued a joint statement calling on the government to abandon the plans as a risk, exposing men, women, including pregnant women and children, to irreparable harm. Although the scheme, which has cost the taxpayer $700 million, according to Home Secretary Yvette Cooper, has now been cancelled, the new Labour government has refused to rule out the use of overseas deportation schemes and the future of 52,000 migrants earmarked for deportation after crossing the channel in the small boats remains unclear. In July 2024, the Home Secretary launched a new border security command which will work in collaboration with the National Crime Agency and intelligence agencies to dismantle the smuggling gangs that facilitate small boat crossings in the UK. The government has also announced it will close the Bibi Stockholm barge in January 2025. Numerous health instances report on the barge since asylum seekers began to be housed there in August 2023, including the outbreak of Lee Collier. Why haven't we put the UK rioters in here? Everyone's been saying it. We should put them in this. We should put them in here, guys. Lock them all on the Bibi Stockholm. Makes perfect logical sense. And we'll come to your comments at the end of this, guys. Between August 2023 and April 2024, the local NHS service, NHS Dorset, recorded 405 so-called health instances on the barge, 1 in 5 of which were relatable to mental health. Byline Times revealed in August amid calls for the most vulnerable detainees to be removed from the barge immediately. In December 2023, a 20-year-old Albanian asylum seeker named Leonard Fruku died of suspected suicide when he was held there. Yeah, I remember we covered that. Last week, The Guardian reported dozens of asylum seekers were staging in a sit-down protest on the barge over delays in processing of their asylum claims, overcrowding conditions, and the trouble accessing medical treatment. A man described the boat currently housing about 400 asylum seekers in Dorset as a hell barge, the newspaper had reported. Now, I said, in response to this Guardian article, I said that if their conditions were not deemed safe, they should get them off it now, because they did say they were going to discontinue the contract with the barge. Labour government did say, but they didn't say they were going to take them off straight away. But I said that if the barge is not deemed suitable, if it's not safe, if it's not reliable, they should get them off now, regardless of the cost for it. The new government has not proposed any clear reforms to immigration detention, despite having the UK's largest and most privatised immigration detention state in Europe. Outsourcing giant Mighty Care and Custody is the largest provider of immigration detention service in the UK. It's responsible for running the Halsworth site. In its 2023 annual report, the company reported a 24% increase in revenue, from 136 million in 2022 to 169 million in 2023. Wow! They got a 24% increase in revenue. What a surprise! Would have been nice if they used some of that revenue actually to make sure that these sites are running properly, you guys. taxpayer money going straight into their coffers when the contracts they're given are supposed to be going towards running these places properly. That's a failure right there. As far as I'm concerned, these buggers owe us money. The UK is the only European country in which it is legally possible to detain people indefinitely, according to the Oxford Migration Observatory in 2022. The cost of immigration detention was £107 per person per day. Indefinite detention must play no part in our immigration system, and we strongly advocate for community-based alternatives. These are proven to lead much better outcomes for people who simply want to be safe and rebuild new lives here, Peresco had told Byline Times. James Wilson, director of Detention Centre, explained that through charities' frontline work, we see daily that detention centres are not equipped to provide adequate mental health care to people in detention. He added that we call on the government to ensure that effective safeguards are in place to keep vulnerable individuals out of detention and support them within the community. A Home Office spokesperson said, we take the welfare and safety of people in our care very seriously, and it is vital that our detention and removals are carried out with dignity and respect, and there are established procedures in place for every immigration removal centre to minimise self-harm, with formal risk assessments on initial detentions and systems for raised concerns at any subsequent point. As my voice starts dying off, it pisses me off that we pay these companies, these private companies, and a majority of that money just goes straight into their coffers, and only the smallest amount goes towards actually looking after these people. And they say, we're looking after them, we're doing the barest minimum. And then you hear stories like these all the time. This is the bloody United Kingdom. This is the UK. This ain't Brazil or Colombian prisons here. This is the UK, for crying out loud. And this is how we're treating people. This is how we treat... This is some... and I don't know what the self-harm rates and the suicide rates are in non-immigration prisons, in our actual prisons. But I can't imagine I can't imagine that they would be low, given the state that they're all bloody in as well. What are you guys saying in the chat? What is the betting that the inspecting company of a PPI contract hired via government donation via Friends MP? Yeah, that's true. It would not surprise me one bit, QA Library, if there was a connection to, he happens to be an associate for connection to someone from Friends of the Conservative Party or something along those lines. Yeah. Would not surprise me whatsoever, QA Library. Amnesties is what I've got. Not amnesties, not even bloody pretext. Amnesties are a few. Are you guys talking about something else there? Nationalising these things will be a long fight, says one angry pagan. As much as I would like to nationalise these things, I don't think it's a priority. At least on the top of priorities list that the Labour government have right now. But I can totally understand why the justifiability to nationalise it. But it also means that the government needs to pay for it and deal with it as well. It could become more problematic for them. I think they should be applying far more pressure to the companies. These poor souls don't have their voices heard. Not really. It's shameful, says Ryan Pegman. Yeah, come from war-torn countries. Some of them coming from absolute destitution that lost absolutely everything, and they get thrown in these cells, thrown in these immigration centres, and they just want to end their lives because they left the lives that they had to come to the UK because they expected to find a prosperous future for them, only to be treated even worse than where they left. Andy Carr said, I would say a lot of this rule breaking has to do with dehumanising rhetoric used by media and politicians against immigrants. Yeah, I agree, Andy, I agree. When half these kids or dogs are free roaming rats, silence is not golden but suspicious, says one angry pagan. Yeah. All I want to say is that they don't really care about us. He's referring to the UK government about Scotland. Stephen Banker says there. But yeah. So guys, just before we head out, I've got one more funny video for you guys. So I hope you guys enjoy this funny video. It's an old one, but for some reason this it made me thought of Nigel Farage. But I don't even think even Nigel Farage would go this far for his constituents. But maybe he will.
Stuart Piper Aloysius here, Member of Parliament for West Keynsham. Just to let you know that I'm going to be in the town today, so if you want to approach me and talk to me about an issue that's important to you, then please do. I'm here to talk to my constituents and hear what they have to say. When I say that you can approach me, I mean I will be in my car at all times. It's nothing to do with you. It's just a personal issue that I've got, I'm afraid. I can't be too close to the general public. I tend to get a little bit flustered. But it's fine. It's fine. I'll open the window here and you can talk to me at the window. So that's absolutely fine. And the passenger window, sorry. Come to the passenger window. Talk to me through the passenger window, and we can. No. Don't come near the car. Don't come near the car. Write what you want to say on a piece of paper. Write what you want to say on a piece of paper, and leave it underneath a rock that I can see just over there. And when I know that you've definitely gone, I will retrieve the piece of paper and read it and get back to you. I think that's the best solution. Okay, looking forward to seeing you.
Maybe it's not completely Nigel Farage, but is there an MP that you currently can think of that suits that kind of mould? Jacob Rees-Mogg, yeah, who's no longer an MP, kind of thinks that mind there. But that was an old one from Michael Spy. So reminder, guys, that both funny videos are linked in the description if you guys want to check them out as well there. But Liz Truss has still not handed over all of her caseload to the new MP. She still has not, QA Library. Thanks for that. I'm not surprised. I don't understand why she hasn't. Yeah, I don't know why she hasn't. This is very frustrating. So, guys, just before I go, I just want to say a massive thank you to everyone who's come along. So, just quickly, I just want to highlight some things, obviously, that I said on this morning's community post. If you did not see it, please read it. It's really, really important. So, there will be no live stream on Wednesday of the Snowflake Watch. I am still planning to do the Snowflake Corner. It's going to be at 6 p.m. Not 7 p.m. tomorrow, guys. 6 p.m. Because I need to go to bed early. So I might not even... I may stay up to watch Max's live stream. I may do. I may not. I'm not 100% keen on... I'm not 100% sure. Because I literally have to get up at... I have to wait. I mean, I get up at 6 a.m. anyway. But I have to get up at 6 a.m. and I've got a long travel Wednesday to do. So I'm going to be completely away from... I'm literally going to be out of this... I'm going to be out of the country. I'm going to be in Wales for the day. And I will be back on Thursday. So I said on the post that I would try to record a Regan's News Round for you guys. So that at least then on Wednesday evening, if you guys have nothing else planned, if you guys wanted to come together and chat and watch something together, you could do so. I will try and record tomorrow. No promises. But I'm actually more keen to actually get short and main videos out for you guys rather than that, because at least then there's plenty of content dropping. Like there's content obviously tomorrow, there's content Wednesday. I've got them ready for you guys, but obviously I'm thinking about how am I going to get content for Thursday and Friday, obviously, because given that I'm not going to be near my computer. So that's so I do have a lot to try and record tomorrow, so I will see how it goes. Obviously, no guarantee, but if there's nothing on Wednesday night, there's nothing on Wednesday night. I want to do a Snowflake watch because obviously it's one of the most popular live streams that I have. So it will, if I do it, it will be Thursday night. If I can do it, if my voice is up for it, I will do it. But again, no promises, guys. There will be no premiere videos over the weekend. And as for next week, I only have one live stream I've guaranteed, and that is this one. Next week's Viewpoint will still go ahead. But as for the rest of the week, that is up for debate because my partner is off, so I want to spend some time with her. So there's no guarantee we'll be here. I'll be at home next week for some days, so I'm not going to promise that to you guys. However, what I am, for those who weren't aware, you've probably seen that it's been come up on the live stream. I am planning to do a Snowflake Talks with Van Man Talks coming up in a couple of weeks' time. We have been talking for quite a while about that, setting it up. So hopefully, cross fingers, there's nothing gets in the way of both our schedules and we can do that. It may possibly change the time slot, but yeah, that is coming up on the 5th of September, myself and Van Man Talks. And then for some of you guys may have seen him in the chat for a while, Terry Regan, who's a Plymouth activist for social justice. We'll be talking to him in next month as well. And also earlier today, I just secured another person that will be joining me for Snowflake Talks. So I've got 3 guests lined up next month for the Snowflake Talks. And I know you guys really enjoyed that, especially myself with Graham, Daily Blase, all shorts. We've had One Angry Pagan. We've had lots of lovely people on so far. So, yeah, I like Van Man too, Mark. He's an absolute top guy. So, cross fingers, we're both able to, we don't have, nothing gets in the way and we're able to do it. I do, obviously, there is one person that I do want to get on for Snowflake Talks at one point, and that is Lee Korn. But I will do that, try and get him on at some point in the future for you guys. Not for a Snowflake show, but just for kind of talk, just for, well, to bring back some of the good old days for those who were there at the start. They will know, those who were the originals will know what I'm talking about there. So, guys, I want to say a massive thank you to everyone who's come along here. Thank you, guys, for all your comments today. Obviously, just a reminder, I don't make any revenue whatsoever from these live streams. The only money I make is from whatever gifted memberships or super chats that I make from them. But hopefully tomorrow at Snowflake Corner I'll have better luck. But obviously, if you guys can't afford, that's fine. The best way you can support me, if you can't in a non-financial way, is just by doing these simple things: hitting the like button, sharing across social media, subscribing, and watching videos longer than normal. Those are the best ways to do so. The gang behind me want to say a big thank you as well. Don't know why the screen's gone fuzzy there. I might because of the. I'll pull that down. So yep, the gang here want to say thank you. They really appreciate it. Lava lamp's grown quite in all of its glory there as well. So it's really nice as well, and great stuff. So yeah, guys, plenty. There's still plenty of content coming on the channel. But yes, and I also want to say just one more thing before I head out. I reached over 500 followers on TikTok, which is a massive achievement. I've actually had nearly a million views on TikTok. Actually, nearly a million views on TikTok, which is actually surpassed by the viewer count actually on the YouTube channel, which is absolutely insane. Compared to, you know, and I've had a lot of viewers here, but to have that many views across the path on my TikTok is quite insane. So massive thank you to everyone who supported me on the TikTok channel. Obviously, I've loved to earn revenue off the TikTok, but that's a long way off anyway. But guys, so just before I head out, I have to say one last thing, guys. If you haven't already, please hit the like button. We greatly appreciate it. Share it across social media so others are notified of this live stream. And subscribe, because it really does help support the channel. And if you want to go one step further, financially support me in the work that I do here, you can do so by becoming a YouTube member for as little as 99p. Or join me on Rumble or Patreon for exclusive content on those platforms. So thank you all so much for watching, and I hope to catch you all very, very soon.